Hello everybody, good evening and welcome, as David Frost used to say, to edition number 1372 of the Calderdale Talking newspaper, being recorded tonight, August the 12th, at the headquarters of the Halifax Society for the Blind on Clare Road. You may have been expecting Roger Simpson to be editing this, although the more alert amongst you will have realised that Roger did last week, and that was out of sequence. So tonight it's myself, Chris O'Ryan, reading for you, and I have an interesting team of readers with me tonight, in so much as not only are they all new readers to me, but they're also all new readers to each other. So we will be just feeling our way along for the first few rounds of stories, but I'm sure we'll get it okay. So reading with me tonight we have Margaret.
Hello.
Janet.
Hello.
And Rosalind.
Good evening.
And our technician tonight is Jeff Byram.
Hello.
So just before we get started, one or two little announcements. First of all, a new listener, Mrs. Betty Briggs of Lightcliffe. Welcome to you, Mrs. Briggs. You will receive an edition of the Courier every Friday, hopefully, in the post. We have 6 teams of readers, 6 editors, so if at the end of this particular edition you think, oh God, I can't stand that man, you at least have the consolation of knowing you don't have to listen to me for another 6 weeks. Hopefully, though, that won't be the case and you will enjoy our efforts. And I'll get it out of the way straight away because I'll only forget otherwise. The lucky draw winner this week is Mr. Albert Southerndon of Halifax. Congratulations to you, Mr. Southerndon, and a gift token will be making its way to you in the near future. Interesting array of stories for you this week. Not as many fundraising charitable events as usual, but a good mixture for all that. And the first round of stories is just going to relate to the fact that Halifax and Calderdale is becoming a bit more of a tourist destination. So this round of stories features different elements that have attracted visitors into the area in the last couple of weeks. And I will now hand you over to Margaret.
271 million tourism tonic. Tourism in Calderdale generated more than £271 million for the local economy in 2013, and this is an increase of 23 million from 2010, according to a new report published by Calderdale Council. The industry also supports more than 5,000 jobs in the area across sectors, including hospitality, catering and retail, the report estimated. Calderdale Council's Cabinet Member for Communities, Councillor Stephen Sweeney, said, "Over the past few years, Calderdale has not been far from the limelight. We've been on the route of the Tour de France and this year's Tour de Yorkshire. We celebrated the Yorkshire Festival, and in the wider arts, our stunning landscapes have been the backdrop to award-winning dramas such as Last Tango in Halifax and Happy Valley. So, we're delighted, although not surprised, that visitor numbers are steadily growing. Further economic research since the report was compiled have revealed that 2014 saw a further 2% increase to the value of tourism in Calderdale, bringing in £276 million to our local economy. Our aim is to build on this success by providing the right conditions so our tourism sector can continue to grow and flourish. The findings are included within the Council's new Visitor Economy Strategy 2015 to 2018. Research undertaken for the report by the local Visitor Information Centre revealed 89% of visitors to the area are from the UK and 11% from overseas. 3/4 of visitors enjoyed a meal at Calderdale's restaurants and cafes, whilst 56% spent their time more leisurely, shopping in its market towns, and 65% went walking in the countryside. Around 11% of visitors came to the area to cycle. One focus will be on product development, making sure that there is a good range of attractions, events and accommodation on offer to meet the needs of visitors to the area, whether they're planning a day trip or an overnight stay. One major opportunity is the reopening of the newly transformed Peace Hall in 2016, creating a tourist destination in the heart of Calderdale.
Heptonstall is in the spotlight as filming begins for a book adaptation. It was lights, camera, action once again in Heptonstall as filming got underway for a new adaptation of the classic children's book, Swallows and Amazons. Crews descended on the town as the picturesque hilltop village became the backdrop for the filming. Written by Arthur Ransom, the book was first published in 1930 and follows the outdoor adventures of two families of children. The Walker children, John, Susan, Titty and Roger, are staying at a farm in the Lake District during the school holidays. They sail a borrowed dinghy named Swallow and meet the Blackett children, Nancy and Peggy, who sail a dinghy named Amazon. Filming for the upcoming adaptation began in June and will star famous faces including Harry Enfield, Rafe Spall and Jessica Hines. It's been directed by Philippa Lowthorpe, whose credits also include Call the Midwife, Jamaica Inn and The Other Berlin Girl. The project was developed by BBC Films and the BFI with Harbour Pictures. It's not the first time Heptonstall has been chosen to feature on screen. The spotlight was on the village in June when filming began for new 8-part ITV drama Jericho, which tells the story of a shantytown and its community as they work together to build a viaduct. There's a very interesting photograph showing the villagers and as extras filming.
This piece is from Friday, August the 7th. One of Calderdale's finest farming spectaculars returns for another year this weekend. The 69th Halifax Agricultural Show, hosted by the Halifax Agricultural Society, is now the largest show in the area. Held at Savile Park on Saturday, the show will cater for all the family, young or old, and visitors do not have to be farmers or from the farming community to enjoy it. There will be many different animals to see, from large cattle, sheep and goats, to mice, rabbits, and even some exotic animals. Horse sections have been cancelled this year as a result of the disease equine strangles, but they are expected to return for next year's event. The day also encourages those with green fingers to show off their flowers and vegetables in the horticultural sections. And cakes, needleworks and other crafts will be on display in the handicraft and produce section. The Halifax Agricultural Show provides a shop window for hundreds of traders, including retail, agricultural crafts and local farm food suppliers, and there will be plenty for children to enjoy with fairground rides, hundreds of animals on display and a petting zoo. Simon Booth, secretary of the show committee, said, "It's a total family day out for everybody. We've got livestock brought into the show alongside vintage cars and tractors. We've got the widest variation possible. There's a record entry for sheep, more than 200 this year, and the cattle section is looking strong. We've got the smallest of the small, which is a bee, to a bull. It's going to be a great show day. The main attraction in the main ring will be the Royal Signals motorcycle team, better known as the White Helmets."
So, that of course was about the agricultural show, which then took place last Saturday, but I imagine in next week's Talking newspaper you will get lots of detailed stories of what happened. Another attraction was a thing in the town centre, a birds of prey display. Headline here is "Shoppers find out that Halifax has talons." Shoppers in Halifax enjoyed getting up close and personal with birds of prey. York Birds of Prey showcased a selection of their birds last weekend at Woolshop Shopping Centre. The event was the first in a series taking place over the next 3 months to give people the chance to meet and handle a variety of birds, including 2 baby goshawks. Falconry experts were also on site to give information about the history of falconry, the different species of birds, their diets and habitats. Jason Gregg, centre manager, said, "York Birds of Prey were a welcome addition to the centre at the weekend as we celebrated Yorkshire Day. It was fantastic to see so many shoppers take an interest in the rare birds." Since opening in 2013, the York Birds of Prey Centre has grown in popularity and is now home to more than 70 birds with 45 different species at the site at Burn Hall, Hewby, just outside York. For anyone who missed out, York Birds of Prey will be returning to the Woolshop Shopping Centre on August the 15th and 16th, September the 19th and October the 3rd. And there's a great photograph accompanying this of Marcus Tooth, aged 5, smiling for the photographer, but perhaps a slightly worried smile as he's got Pepper, the Ural owl, on his wrist, very, very close to his nose.
All revved up and ready to go. Headlines for the next piece. Scores of visitors flocked to Hebden Bridge to raise more than £25,000, and it was one of the biggest events in the town's calendar. Thousands of people visited to the town's vintage weekend, now in its 33rd year, at Calder Holmes Park. Visitors and entrants travelled from afar, and many decided to make a full weekend of it, staying locally and taking in both days of the show. The event was organised by the Rotary Club of Hebden Bridge, well established as a premier attraction for the display of around 600 veteran, vintage and classic cars, motorcycles and military and commercial vehicles. Displays included classic cars, motorcycles, Rolls-Royces and Bentleys, replica and kit cars, military vehicles, tractors, novelty cars, post-war cars, American vehicles and more. Despite a rainy start to the weekend on Saturday, the sun eventually began to shine. The popular event also included live music, fun rides for children and stacks of stalls. Neil Croft, the treasurer of Hebden Bridge Rotary Club, said, "It was a great success, with more cars than ever before, more than 700 across the weekend, and I think we can say we had record crowds. The main thing is that we will have a reserve of funds to support local charities. It's all down to a lot of hard work from a lot of people and the volunteers who give up their time for nothing. It's very good for Hebden Bridge, and I've spoken to shopkeepers who said it was a fantastic and that everything was busy. That's the reason why we do it, to promote Hebden Bridge. We've all got big smiles on our faces, and funds raised in the weekend will help support a wide variety of charities, good causes and individuals in need." And there's some rather splendid pictures of some cars with their proud owners, very well polished, absolutely stunning.
The headline for this is "Vintage Vehicles on Show. The cars are the stars." Dozens of classic cars were on display in Elland at the town's first ever vintage vehicle event. A fleet of old favourites parked up in the town centre, and visitors revelled in admiring the sleeky and shiny cars of yesteryear. From Rolls-Royces and Bentleys to a Corvette and MG Metro, there was plenty for enthusiasts to enjoy. The day, held on Saturday, was organised by the Elland Community Group, which is working to improve the town for residents and visitors alike. Spokesman David McCory said, "The day brought in lots of people, but also created a lot of memories for some of the youngsters. There was lots of lads who were goggle-eyed at the cars. It was like a dream for some of them. The classic car owners were a great group. They let people sit in the cars. Visitors could talk to them, and it was like they were a part of the community. One man from Germany was on holiday with his classic car, and he was delighted to win a trophy. On the whole, it was a great day. It's all about bringing life back to Elland." He added that he hoped the event would grow even bigger and better in the future.
The headline for this piece is "Baby Ballet Scoops Top Dance Awards." Popular Calderdale company Baby Ballet is celebrating its 10th birthday in style by winning 2 national awards. The multi-award winning Dance Academy, which was started in a converted Halifax mill in 2005, has won Dance Franchise of the Year and Dance Brand of the Year in the latest Oscars of the dance world. Online Dance Teacher Hub was started last year to bring together and connect dance teachers across the UK. It quickly attracted thousands of followers and announced its first awards at Move It, the UK's biggest dance event, held in London in March. There were 12 different categories, and businesses and individuals had to send an email about their work and why they deserved to win. Judges then decided on a short list, and it went to the public vote. Judges included top former ballet dancer Darcy Bussell, a judge on hit TV show Strictly Come Dancing, and well-known dancers, presenters and choreographers Laura Wilson, Matt Flint, Ryan Jenkins and Tom Shilcock. Baby Ballet owner Claire O'Connor said, "There has been a lot of blood, sweat and tears over the past 10 years, but I wouldn't change it for anything. It has been a remarkable journey and we have achieved so much in a short time. I'm over the moon we are celebrating our 10th birthday and have won these 2 prestigious awards." Claire, 41, started the company with no capital investment and can now lay claim to it being the UK's leading preschool dance concept. Not only has it won numerous awards and been featured on TV and in prestigious newspapers, but it is now a recognised children's brand and a leading player in the dance market. And at the head of the article there's a lovely photograph of all the girls involved, with the owner Claire in the middle and the others holding up a glass of what looks remarkably like champagne.
Now, the Courier's in-depth feature this week is to do with housing and accommodation, and it's a dramatic headline cutting across 2 pages: Generation Rent, through the roof house prices crippling for young buyers. And the bottom corner of the page, in very, very big, dramatic, bold print, are 3 statistics. 26% of parents helped fund offspring's mortgages in 2015. 21% of prospective first-time buyers believe their mortgage applications are doomed. And 28% of parents said their children had moved back into the family home this year to avoid high rent costs. So I'm going to read you the in-depth study, and then Margaret and Janet are both going to read a couple of the articles that were linked to this in other parts of the newspaper. The time of school and college leavers promptly flying the family nest and settling down with a place of their own now firmly belongs to a bygone era, it would seem. The housing crisis is alive and kicking in West Yorkshire, as prospective first-time buyers are forced to return to the sometimes claustrophobic world of mum and dad's house, and those waiting for council houses are left frustrated by lengthy delays. Those born in the mid to late 80s and early 90s have been labelled Generation Rent, a cohort left worse off than their parents and crippled by a negligible number of affordable homes. That label even bears its name to a report by the Halifax, which found more than a fifth of 20 to 45-year-olds looking to buy a house felt that obtaining a mortgage was impossible. But just 12% of parents of such people agreed. A survey of 40,000 such people and 4,000 parents of those in that age group found that just over 1 in 4 parents had contributed towards a deposit for their child's first home in 2015. A significant increase on last year. Startlingly, the number of those obtaining a full mortgage on their offspring's behalf has doubled over the last 12 months. Craig McKinley, mortgage director at the bank, which employs 6,000 people in Calderdale, suggests the picture is unlikely to change any time soon. The Generation Rent report shows a clear divide between parents and their children as regards optimism over getting on the housing ladder, he says. Whether it is giving their children a cash lump sum or providing a roof over their heads while they save, it is clear the bank of mum and dad will have a role to play in helping their children get on the property ladder for the foreseeable future. But the problem extends way beyond buying. Renting, once the relatively cheap and easy option for many young people, either in low-paid work or seeking work, has become harder. Julie Burnham, service manager at Wakefield Rent Deposit Scheme, which helps vulnerable people get private housing, says people who previously would have been first-time buyers can now only afford to rent, and that's put a squeeze on housing everywhere. Generation Rent member, 23-year-old Chris White of Halifax, is familiar with the struggle of searching for a place of his own, having moved back in with his parents after finishing uni. He pays them a small amount of board money and is attempting to save up for a property. If you're renting, it costs between £300 and £500 each month, and for those in an average job, that's a huge chunk of your earnings gone, Chris says. Sorry, excuse me. You're just working to live each month, which is a pretty horrendous equation, really. Ideally, I'd like to be taking my first step on the property ladder within 2 or 3 years, but I'll have to save up a lot to do that. I'm just looking for a nice place in a nice area, but then so is everyone.
The next piece has rather large headlines. Shame of teenage homeless. 1 in 5 without a home in Calderdale are young people. Calderdale faces an increasing homelessness problem among the young after figures showed the number of teenagers without a home has risen over the last 3 years. The number of people in Calderdale, aged 16 to 17, becoming homeless in 2014-2015 accounted for 21.6% of homelessness acceptances, double the national average. In Calderdale, domestic abuse accounted for 42% of people becoming statutory homeless in 2014-2015. Parents and other friends or relatives no longer being willing or able to accommodate is the second most frequent cause. In recent years, at least 49% of Calderdale homelessness acceptances are single people. Couples without children or adult siblings, a higher proportion of single people than the national or regional average. The figures which show the number of homelessness acceptances has risen from 51 in 2011 to over 70 in 2004-2015, come in a report by the Council's Director of Economy and Environment, Mark Thompson. The 2015 to 2020 homelessness strategy has been drawn up by Calderdale Council to tackle the issue. In his report, which will go before Calderdale Council's Cabinet on Monday, Mr Thompson said, homelessness can be defined in a number of different ways. For many, it conjures up an image of someone sleeping rough. For others, it may mean living in very poor quality accommodation, experiencing domestic abuse, or having no security of tenure. In cases where a local authority is satisfied that an applicant is eligible for assistance, is in priority need, and has become homeless through no fault of their own, the authority will owe a main homelessness duty to that household. Such households are referred to as statutory homelessness acceptances. When a main homelessness duty is owed, the authority must ensure that suitable temporary accommodation is available until a settled home becomes available or the duty ends in some other way. In cases where a household is homeless but not in priority need, or is considered to have become homeless through their own fault, a lower level of duty is owed. This may be to provide advice and assistance to secure alternative accommodation or to provide short-term temporary accommodation. The homelessness strategy provides an overview of homelessness in Calderdale and discusses a number of key factors.
Continuing the housing theme, demolition starts at Abbey Park, and there's a photograph of the demolition site at Abbey Park. After months of delay, demolition work has started at the Abbey Park estate in Illingworth, Halifax. Work was due to start at the estate in April, but was set back by negotiations with owner-occupiers, some of whom were reluctant to move. Pennine Housing 2000 had struggled to let many of the properties, and many had become derelict for some time. Mark Patterson, neighbourhood manager at Pennine Housing 2000, said, "There will be some disruption while the work goes ahead, but I would like to thank local residents for their continuing patience. I'm sure they will be relieved not to be looking out onto empty houses anymore." A total of 104 homes will be demolished, work which Pennine hopes will be completed by September this year. Councillor Barry Collins, Calderdale Council's Member for Regeneration and Development, said, "It's good to know that landscaping will begin soon. But frankly, that shouldn't be the end of the Abbey Park story. All being well, the council will work with Pennine on long-term plans to develop new homes on the site."
The headline here is Scout Leader on Japan Adventure. Halifax Scout leader Inez Johnson has travelled to Japan to take part in the 23rd World Scout Jamboree. She has joined 30,000 scouts from more than 200 countries for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity which takes place over 2 weeks. Inez has joined the International Service Team, who are the driving force behind the Jamboree. The IST is a multinational collection of adults who volunteer to spend their summer holiday in the engine room of the Jamboree. Lewis Ackroyd, a scout from Halifax, has also gone to Japan to take part in the Jamboree. At the event, the scouts will camp, live and work together, as well as take part in adventures and experiences and thinking about global issues in a new light. Inez said, "I got my group to make some peace cranes so they could be taken to Hiroshima as a sign of peace. I'm looking forward to sharing our beliefs and scout values and meeting so many other people. It's going to be amazing, and I know the World Scout Jamboree will encourage people from different countries, different cultures and different faiths to meet and have a massive party." The theme of the Jamboree is nature, and the programme will use the environment as a learning tool, demonstrating both its vulnerability and what individuals can do to better protect the world. The Scout Association was founded on August the 1st, 1907. The first World Scout Jamboree took place in London in 1920 and has continued since, uniting scouts and guides with messages of peace and global understanding.
Now, of course, at this time of the year, there are always plenty of stories about fundraising and charitable events, and you're going to hear about 3 of those in a minute. I'm going to read a slightly different perspective on that. One of the groups that organises a lot of these things, of course, is the Round Table. And there's a full-page article here headlined, "More men are needed to join the Round Table." A recruitment drive is being launched to find new members for a worldwide organisation. Halifax Round Table, one of the oldest in the world, is looking for men aged between 18 and 45 to join the organisation, which has branches in more than 60 different countries. The Round Table helps the local community by fundraising, and members also take part in activities including canoeing, foot golf and bike rides. The group also enjoys annual international trips to visit other round tables, including Finland and Estonia, and inter-table competitions, including cricket, sumo wrestling, tug-of-war and golf. I'm always trying to lose weight, so I don't think sumo wrestling would appeal to me. Robin Talbot, chairman, said, "We stand for fun, friendship and fundraising. Over the years, Halifax Round Table has raised thousands of pounds for local charities, recently including Overgate Hospice, Ravenscliffe School, and this year we are working with the Empowered People. We are also awarded the most social round table in Yorkshire in 2014-15 and plan to keep hold of that cup for a long time. We are currently looking forward to being part of the Halifax Agricultural Show, where everyone can put their football skills to the test and find out more about the round table. The group has a business meeting on the first Thursday of every month in a local pub, and on the third Thursday holds a social event.
This story is about the Pankhurst family who lends its support for Parkinson's. Halifax woman was delighted to be joined by members of the Pankhurst family on an 8-mile walk for Parkinson's UK. Suffrage historian and author Jill Liddington from Mytholmroyd organised the walk after seeing the impact Parkinson's can have firsthand. Helen Pankhurst, great-granddaughter of the suffragette Emmeline Pankhurst, joined Jill on the walk and brought her son and nephew along too. Jill said, "I met Helen at a suffrage event earlier this year, and we soon realised that we both had a connection to Parkinson's, so I was absolutely delighted that Helen was able to lend her support and walk with us. Until 4 years ago, I knew little about Parkinson's, and now with a family member and 3 friends affected by this difficult condition, I've become acutely aware how life-changing it is." The fundraiser saw the group travel to London to take on heatwave temperatures as they walked London's canal towpaths from Tottenham Lock in north-east London to the final at Islington Tunnel. So far, the group has raised £790 and they hope to reach their target of £1,000 by the autumn.
Thousands enjoy Eureka Play Day event. Thousands of visitors flocked to Eureka to celebrate National Play Day. Stacks of activities were available on the day, August the 5th, and included go-kart racing, face painting, an assault course, a climbing wall and mountain bikes. There was also smoothie making, family games, dance performances, football skills, a guide dog sensory unit, hat making, den building, beach boogie and storytelling sessions which kept the young and old entertained. National Play Day takes place every year on the first Wednesday of August and is a day set aside to celebrate every child's right to play and to raise awareness of the importance of play in their lives. From small-scale events to thousands of children taking over Trafalgar Square, Play Day is celebrated by each community in a way that suits them. As well as a celebration, Play Day is an opportunity to campaign on issues affecting children's play. Play England calls on everyone to celebrate the day and to show why play is fundamental for childhood and vital for children's health, well-being and development. And there's a lovely photograph of families enjoying the special event at Eureka and a very happy youngster attempting an assault course.
I shall have to describe this photograph before I read the article, because it's about a chap who is having his dreadlocks cut off for charity. In the photograph he's there with his lovely 2 daughters, but his dreadlocks go past his beard and they disappear off the photograph, so I presume they almost go down to his waist. The hair is so long. A Halifax dad of 2 is braving the clippers for the first time in 25 years in aid of a local cancer charity. Xander Hardwich, 40, said he wanted to raise money for the Laura Crane Youth Cancer Trust after a friend with a young family was diagnosed with the disease and died just 10 months later. Mr. Hardwich, originally from Australia, has so far raised £195 and is hoping to up the total to £500 by mid-August when he goes under the shears. Mr. Hardwich said, "It's bad enough when anyone is diagnosed with cancer, but especially when it's someone young. I don't want to push people because I know times are hard at the moment, but every little really does help." Mr. Hardwich's family say they'll be shocked to see him without his stylish dreadlocks for the first time in a quarter of a century. Daughters Ava, 8, and Ruby, 7, said they will be sad that the daddy no longer looks like a pirate. Helen Merville, Trust fundraising manager, said, "We are thrilled that Xander chose to raise funds and awareness for the Laura Crane Youth Centre Cancer Trust through shedding his dreads. that Xander decided to shave off his beloved dreadlocks to benefit others is incredibly kind and selfless. Laura's charity relies solely on the support of generous people like Xander to be able to continue the support we can offer to teenagers and young adults with cancer locally and further afield.
Now I'm going to give you this week's quiz questions. As always, 10 questions, no prizes, just the pleasure towards the end of the edition when you hear the answers of knowing that you've done well. Hopefully you've done well. And after this, you're going to have 3 items from the crime reports, the court reports section of the Courier. So, question number 1. What is the main language used in Chile? Question number 2. In the Bible, which son was Abraham asked to sacrifice? Question number 3. At which battle was Richard III killed? Question number 4. What part of the body is affected by sufferers of myopia? Question number 5. Who was mother of Queen Elizabeth I? Question number 6. Which song mentions a jolly swagman? Question number 7. What does a misogynist hate? Question number 8. In the rhyme, what is Friday's child? Question number 9. What word can go after soap and before house? And finally, question number 10. What did former US President Jimmy Carter grow on his farm?
The next article is about a woman who avoids prison, and she has taken £50,000 from the travel firm where she worked. A debt-ridden Brighouse woman who stole almost £50,000 from a Halifax travel firm has avoided an immediate prison sentence. Natalie Lee, 21, walked from Bradford Crown Court yesterday after a judge suspended her 12-month sentence for 2 years after hearing how she breached the trust placed in her by Sunmaster Limited. Judge Jonathan Rose explained that he was not locking up Lee immediately after taking account of the fact that there was no evidence of any of the money being frittered away. He also said Lee of Lilland Lane had demonstrated her remorse from the moment she was quizzed about the missing money by her employer earlier this year, and admitted the offence at the first opportunity in court. The judge told a tearful Lee that she would have to do 250 hours unpaid work, and he warned her that if she missed a single hour, her case would be brought back. Prosecutor Louise Pryke told the court how Lee was employed as a customer service agent who had been given the authority to refund customers. In January, her supervisor discovered a refund payment had been made to a customer that did not exist, and further inquiries revealed that Lee had authorised more than 40 fraudulent refunds between February 2014 and January this year. The court heard that the fictitious customers were refunded £48,451.91, but it was discovered that Lee had in fact transferred the cash into 5 bank accounts. Barrister Kirsty Watson for Lee said that she had payday loan debts of about $20,000 at the time of the offending, and there was no evidence of her client living an extravagant lifestyle with the stolen money.
Another one is a pub goer bit off part of a man's ear with a quote of "It's a disgusting piece of violence." A drunken pub goer who bit off part of a man's ear at Halifax Town Centre pub has been ordered to pay his victim £750 compensation. Christopher Warren had to undergo reconstructive surgery to reattach his left earlobe after 53-year-old Paul Godfrey bit it off during a fight in the toilet area of the Duke of Wellington pub on Commercial Street, Halifax, more than a year ago. Following his arrest over the incident in May last year, Godfrey of Mill Lane, Halifax, admitted getting into a fight after having a lot to drink, but he said he couldn't remember biting the complainant's ear. Bradford Crown Court heard that Mr. Warren's surgery had been successful and he had made a full recovery from his injury. Godfrey admitted a charge of unlawful wounding and was sentenced to 12 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. Judge Jonathan Rose said Godfrey would also have to do 200 hours unpaid work and pay £750 in compensation to Mr. Warren.
A 31-year-old man has been jailed for 20 months after police discovered a cannabis farm at a Tomodon industrial unit last November. Prosecutor Martin Robertshaw told Bradford Crown Court that when officers went to the Gawksholme Mill premises, they found 5 growing tents had been set up inside Unit 5. One tent contained 251 skunk cannabis cuttings, and 2 other tents contained a total of 54 cannabis plants, which could have produced drugs worth about £17,000 on the streets. Christopher May of Stag Pasture Road, Oldham, and his father, Brian, 59, of Belmont Street, Oldham, were both at the premises, and Mr. Robertshaw said investigations revealed that Christopher May had used a false name to rent the unit. After his arrest, Christopher May told police that he had been talked into growing cannabis at the premises and said he would have received a share of the money for his assistance. His father said he had gone to the unit at the request of his son and only realised he was being asked to help with the plants when he got to the mill. Mr. Robertshaw submitted that Christopher May had played a significant role in what was a sophisticated commercial cannabis grow. When officers arrested him at a property in Littleborough, they also found a small quantity of cocaine and a stun gun. Recorder Mark McCone jailed Christopher May for a total of 20 months after he admitted charges of producing cannabis, possessing cocaine, and possessing a prohibited weapon. His father was sentenced to a 12-month community order with 100 hours unpaid work after he admitted playing a lesser role in the production.
So, moving on now to some statements of opinion. I've got the Talking Politics page. This week it features Colin Raystrick, Independent Councillor for Hipperholme and Lightcliffe. And then we've got a couple of items drawn from the letters page of the Courier. So the headline here, that from Colin Raystrick's piece, it's not about power, it's all about money. Regional devolution has got the political chattering classes in a froth of excitement at the moment. Giving political control to the regions will give local people more control over what happens in our local areas. Really? I don't think so. Take 2 examples. New policy announcements, and by new I mean safely after the election, from NHS England, note the N stands for National, refers to a formation of supersized A&E departments, and in press reports, Calderdale is one of only 3 nationally to be mentioned by name as being at risk of closure. The local clinical commissioning group, who are allegedly making the decision about our A&E, have now brought forward the consultation on this topic. Your council is trying to persuade the local CCG to hold fire. It'll be to no avail. I have always thought that the closure of our A&E was a done deal. To be fair to the CCG, I think it is sincere in its aims, but powerless to prevent the national organisations from dictating terms. Regional devolution of political power would not save our A&E. Further to the above, the announcement, post-election, by Network Rail of the pause in the electrification of the Trans-Pennine and Calder Valley route is another major blow. Of course, despite what some local politicians say, this pause is effectively a scrapping of the scheme. Your council has lobbied extensively and effectively, credit where it's due, but Network Rail, national organisation, have decided that they can do as they please. This railway improvement is essential for Calderdale. Our geography of hills and valleys precludes the ability to build new roads, and a railway improvement would have been a significant step in our economic regeneration. So, would regional devolution, the northern powerhouse, have made any difference to these two decisions? No, of course not. It's not about power, it's about money. You can have regional assemblies, combined authorities, and as many city mayors as you like. But without control over budgets, it's just more people talking, and still no one south of Watford listening. Don't be fooled.
The next piece is a letter from Andrew Buck from Skircote Road in Halifax, and it's a response. Stop political point scoring. Councillor Roger Taylor's letter from July the 31st, I'll not take lectures from Labour, was extraordinary, even by his usual level of intemperance. Declaring Network Rail's investments unaffordable, the government then denied that it had misled the electorate, claiming that Network Rail had only just disclosed the scale of the problems it faced. Network Rail is a public body within the remit of the Department of Transport, and Patrick McLaughlin, the Transport Secretary, is answerable to Parliament for its performance and activities, and the Permanent Secretary of the Department, Philip Ruttman, is Network Rail's principal accounting officer, responsible for the stewardship of Network Rail's resources. This implies that either Network Rail withheld information until after the election so as to protect the Tories' election campaign, Mr Osborne's Northern Powerhouse, or the Tories deliberately chose to remain ignorant. Of course, all this might be because, in Councillor Taylor's words, of Blair's dumbing down of the civil service with Labour sympathisers. If we feel aggrieved that even the basic electrification of the London-Sheffield line and the Trans-Pennine lines are paused, it's because of the Tories' ruinous expensive PFI deal for GW's new electric trains. From 2018, the contractor will receive $400,000 per day for trains even if they're unused. It has been said that delays in electrifying lines to Bristol and South Wales will have the Department of Transport paying to keep old trains running and new ones idle. It has been said that when the infrastructure was privatised as Railwork plc, most of the experienced engineers were dismissed and management consultants were hired in their stead. Unfortunately, in the lugubrious tradition of our country, the search for short-term profit led inexorably to a fixation on its property portfolio. Railtrack were bankrupted and had to be taken back into public ownership. That's why it was renationalised. Nothing whatever to do with Labour supporting unions or payback or infiltration by shadowy political saboteurs. To take one instance, Railtrack's decision to cut the fat by getting rid of signalling engineers is one reason why faster progress is not possible with a new technology. As for the rest of Councillor Taylor's maniacal thrashing about, incoherent rants and mystifying reliance on memory about the reorganisations of the Passport Office, the NHS, HMRC, CSA, etc., in every case has been pointed out by many commentators, private consultants were brought in, and these advised the appointment of private contractors, and in almost every instance costs rose and efficiency fell. Incidentally, the cost of administration in the NHS is 3% of the total spent on it. I challenge Councillor Taylor to deny that figure will be envied by any private enterprise of similar size. According to a recent report, under the watch of the Financial Services Authority, the UK suffered the worst financial crisis since the 1930s, after the banks built up huge risks in their businesses, which the regulator's light touch did nothing to reduce. The financial crisis was not caused by the policies of the British government, but by a worldwide failure to regulate the banks. Can we stop ignorant and petty political point scoring and have adult debates on how to prevent such reoccurrences?
This is another letter to the Courier written by Ruth Stevens. It shows a photograph of the Cromwell Bottom Nature Reserve in Brighouse. I totally agree with Lawrence Sutton's letter in regards to proposed leisure park at Cromwell Bottom Nature Reserve. I and 7 other Canal and Rivers Trust volunteers have been working hard to improve the canal corridor from Brighouse to the reserve, putting in garden areas and a picnic area at Brookfoot Lock. We were kept completely in the dark about these plans. The reserve and the canal are full of nature, and we have people constantly saying that that is what draws them down here. If this, in quotes, townie's playground, goes ahead, it will not only destroy a vital natural habitat, it will impact on the canal as well. Thank you.
This is a tribute to a much-loved ranger. A family has paid tribute to a much-loved Manor Heath Park, Halifax, ranger after he died at the age of 75. Peter Binns, who passed away peacefully and surrounded by family on August the 1st, was dedicated to his work and continued in his role until the beginning of this year despite battling a blood disorder. In 2011, he fought to keep his job after being told he was too old to continue. Mr. Binns of Siddall was born in Sorby Bridge and spent a number of his formative years as a driver in the army. He was first posted to Germany as part of his national service, but signed up for extra years and was stationed in Benghazi with his wife Norma, who he married in 1960. It was in North Africa where the couple welcomed their only child, Carleen, in 1963. Later, in the 1960s, the family moved back to Calderdale and made their home in Sorby Bridge. Mr. Binns took up a job at Dugdale in the town, where he worked for 29 years and later held security positions before taking up his role as a park ranger 9 years ago. His daughter, Carleen, 51, said one of the cards said that he was exemplary. That was his army experience, and no matter what age, he could engage in conversation with anybody. Everybody knew him. We used to go to the supermarket and he would be shaking hands and talking to people. He was very much a family man. Mr. Binns leaves 3 granddaughters, Julia, Emma and Ruth, and 3 great-grandchildren, Lucy, Elliot and Noah.
And another tribute, this time to a Halifax Town fan. A lasting tribute will be made to a young FC Halifax Town supporter who died after a short battle with cancer. Charlie Ingham went to his first football match at the Shay when he was 3 months old. Despite the family moving from Sorby Bridge to Cornwall when he was 3 years old, he travelled up with his dad David as much as possible to watch the Shaymen. When he turned 16, he decided he wanted to move back to Halifax and got himself an engineering apprenticeship and a job, and last August he moved back home. However, in October 2014, he became ill around October that time and was originally diagnosed with pneumonia before he was eventually diagnosed with cancer in December. He had a 6-inch germ cell tumour in his chest, and after emergency chemotherapy treatment at Leeds General Infirmary, he made some improvement and his course of treatment was finalised. Mr. Ingham said the club helped organise a special visit to the hospital. He was so pleased they had bothered to come just for him. Charlie was very brave through all his treatment, but one day he was feeling very down. That day a text came from Louisa Green from the club to see how he was. I said he was having a bad day. The next day the players arrived again to see him. It really lifted his spirits. After the chemotherapy, Charlie had a 6-hour operation to remove the tumour, but surgeons had to remove one of his lungs because the tumour had become attached to it. Despite recovering quickly after the operation, his lungs started to fail, and he was transferred to Wythenshawe Hospital, Manchester, for specialist treatment on an ECMO machine to give his remaining lung a chance to recover. However, he sadly passed away on June the 2nd.
In the next piece, we have two pictures of Mytholmroyd. We have Eric Alston in the foreground and the church and various buildings in the background, and then also a picture of Burnley Road in Mytholmroyd during the Calder Valley floods. Farewell to Eric after 8.5 years. A man who has stood at the helm of a group working to champion Mytholmroyd is to step down after nearly a decade. Eric Alston has been the chairman of Royd Regeneration for 8.5 years, but he's decided the time has come for a change of leadership. During his time at the head of Royd Regeneration, the group has flourished, with the transformation of St Michael's Square, the Mytholmroyd Memorial Gardens and the Christmas market making a huge difference to the town. Speaking about his time with the group, Eric, 70, said, "It really was an exciting time to be spending a lot of money and seeing the big difference that it made to Mytholmroyd. It's a very worthwhile job, and I really felt I was making a contribution to my adopted town. The real aim is to make Mytholmroyd a better place to live and work. It's not that I don't enjoy it anymore. I just felt after 8 years and me not getting any younger, it was time to step down and let somebody younger and with an interest in Mytholmroyd to take over." Eric moved across the county border from Lancashire to the town in 1976 with his family, and he's called it home ever since. He says one of the highlights of the past 8.5 years was the group's work to help those affected by the notorious floods in 2012. Together with the St Michael's Amateurs, we put on the Floodlight Review and raised more than £2,000 to distribute to residents who were flood damaged, Eric added. Eric hopes the work of Royd Regeneration will continue to have a positive impact on the town. Plans for the future include making Mytholmroyd a Pennine Adventure Centre, championing the town's close link to great outdoors. Eric will continue to serve as chairman of Royd Regeneration until the end of the year, but is also willing to stand down if a new chairman can be appointed earlier.
This is an article about how Halifax ladies can learn how to play rugby. If you thought rugby was just a sport for men, then think again. Participation in women's rugby has doubled in the past 10 years, and the England women's team won the World Cup last autumn. Keen to attract even more women to the game, Halifax RUFC is offering free pitch-up and play sessions at Ovenden Park. Open to women of all abilities, the sessions include skills, fitness and match play, with an introduction to tackling. The key focus is encouraging women into the sport with inclusive, enjoyable and informative sessions, whether they're brand new to rugby, a sofa supporter or a returning player. The sessions aim to build confidence, contact, fitness and femininity, whilst providing a playing field for women and girls to discover what makes them strong. Players will also be able to select a mood band to highlight whether they're just looking for fun, fancy some competition, or they want to focus on fitness. Peter Taylor, who's the Women's Rugby Development Officer, said, "England Rugby are hoping to get 10,000 more women into the sport by 2017, so we've launched these friendly pitch-up and play sessions and are calling upon all the local ladies, regardless of age, ability or previous experience. These sessions are completely free and provide a fantastic introduction to newcomers, so bring along a friend, a family member or a colleague to give rugby a try." And there's a lovely picture there with 7 ladies doing the free pitch-up and play sessions coming to Ovenden Park.
Training for area's taxi drivers. Hundreds of taxi drivers in Calderdale have received training in spotting and reporting signs of child sexual exploitation. Over 26 training sessions, organised by Calderdale Council's licensing team, have been delivered already, with at least a further 4 in the pipeline. The compulsory training was introduced in May 2015 on the recommendation of its Licensing and Regulatory Committee. All drivers who currently hold a licence in Calderdale are required to attend the training, and new applicants must successfully complete the course before their licence is issued. The Halifax Taxi Owners Association and the Private Hire Association have worked with Calderdale Council and West Yorkshire Police to plan the training, which is designed to improve customer service and protect members of the public and drivers. The 4-hour session covers the key areas of responsibility for licensed drivers. The syllabus includes protecting children from CSE, domestic abuse, disability and access for all, keeping safe and reporting incidents, maintaining a safe vehicle, and being an ambassador for Calderdale. Deputy Leader of Calderdale Council, Councillor Barry Collins, said, "Taxi drivers spend their working days travelling around our towns. It's vital that if they ever see anything which concerns them, whether it's a child or an adult who seems to need help, they know what to do. Thanks to this training, if they see something which makes them uneasy, they will know how to report it, helping us to keep our communities safe." The sessions are delivered by West Yorkshire Police, Calderdale Council, the Calderdale Safeguarding Children Board, and Nadeem Mir, the former Chief Inspector for Greater Manchester Police. All existing holders of private hire, hackney carriage or dual badge licences have passed a knowledge test, which examines their understanding of the licence conditions and their geographical knowledge of the area. They are now required to complete the new course to retain their licence.
I will now give you the quiz answers from the quiz I asked earlier in the edition. So, number 1. What is the main language used in Chile? It is, of course, Spanish. I say, of course, because the entire South American continent, all the countries have Spanish as their main language, apart from Brazil, which has Portuguese. That's not strictly right either, but I'm not going to go into details. It's mainly right. I just thought about French Guiana and Suriname. Anyway, number 2. In the Bible, which son was Abraham asked to sacrifice? Isaac. Number 3. At which battle was Richard III killed? The Battle of Bosworth. Number 4. What part of the body is affected by sufferers of myopia? It's the eyes. Number 5. Who was mother of Queen Elizabeth I? Anne Boleyn. Number 6. Which song mentions a jolly swagman? Waltzing Matilda. Number 7. What does a misogynist hate? I was a little bit wary about asking this question, given that I had a team of 3 ladies with me, because a misogynist hates women. In the rhyme, what is Friday's child? Friday's child is loving and giving. Number 9. The word which can go after soap and before house is opera. Soap opera and opera house. And finally, number 10. Former US President Jimmy Carter, on his farm, used to grow peanuts.
The next piece, we have a picture here of Todmorden Town Hall. So this is about Todmorden Town Centre. Todmorden Town Centre could soon receive a funding boost as Calderdale Council's Cabinet discussed proposals for the future of the town's development board. The Todmorden Development Board was established in 2013 and currently comprises of elected members from Calderdale Council and Todmorden Town Council. Since its creation, the board has made some progress in focusing activity to support improvements both within the town centre, particularly within Todmorden Town Hall. On Monday, August the 10th, the Cabinet discussed options to ensure the success of the board that it can continue and allow funding to be utilised to provide a support to the town. Councillor Barry Collins, Calderdale Council's Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Economic Development, said, "We are committed to giving a new and revitalised lease of life to Todmorden by working with the Development Board, who are focused specifically on the Todmorden area. We can ensure that funding is directed where it's needed. A lot of work has already gone into making improvements in Todmorden and by utilising existing funding, discussing opportunities to bring in external funds and widening the participation of the board. We can ensure this hard work can continue." It's recommended that Cabinet approve plans to appoint 2 business and 2 community representatives onto the Todmorden Development Board. This is to provide valuable input and feedback to discussions regarding the future economic development of Todmorden and also help the board to bring in wider support for proposed projects. In December 2013, Cabinet approved the allocation of £70,000 for a new lift to be installed in Todmorden Town Hall. The full amount of this allocation was not spent, and it's now recommended that Cabinet approve the surplus funding of £23,000 for priority projects within the Town Hall. Cabinet will also discuss proposals delegating authority to spend a further £50,000 on projects recommended by the Development Board.
This article has a headline, "Fight Begins to Stop Court Closures." A petition to save the courts in Calderdale has been started by a group of young solicitors with support gathering momentum. An online movement entitled Save Halifax County Court and Family Court and Halifax Magistrates and Family Court from Closure has been created by the Halifax and Huddersfield Junior Lawyers Division. Chair Cara Priestley said they were keen to inform and explain to as many people as possible the effects the closures would have for Calderdale. Closing the courts would have a massive impact to the interests of justice. Closure of the Magistrates' Court will remove local magistrates with local knowledge, administering the law on offences committed in Calderdale. The magistrates in Bradford will not have the same knowledge of the area. The division also expressed concerns about the potential of solicitor firms having to close and move premises and the borough being left with 2 large empty buildings. But the response from experienced solicitors on Calderdale has been positive. The reaction has been really good from local solicitors. All the Calderdale councillors have already given their support against the closure. Halifax MP Holly Lynch and the Police and Crimes Commissioner Mark Burns-Williamson are also looking to give their backing to save the courts. She added, "It's important for as many people to be part of the consultation process, and hopefully the petition will make it easier for people to have their say." The magistrates' courts in Calderdale and Halifax County Court are to close if government proposals go ahead. The 2 courts are included on a list of dozens of courts nationally which the Ministry of Justice could act. A public consultation on the proposals has begun and it will run until October the 8th.
A cheerful story now about a Halifax firm celebrating 60 years in business, accompanied by a lovely photograph of the people involved, mainly the Chippendale family and another lady called Nicola Muff, who must be in some other capacity there. A Calderdale company specialising in refurbishment and adaptations for disabled people is celebrating its 60th anniversary. C&R Maintenance Services Limited at Homefield Mills was started in 1955 by the late Leslie Chippendale, who branched out on his own to make garden sheds and called the company C&R Construction. It works for well-known brands including Bupa, Four Seasons, Leonard Cheshire and European Care, and local authorities including Calderdale, Bradford, Leeds and Kirklees. The firm, which employs around 20 people, boasts a 2.5 million turnover and is now owned by Leslie's son Matthew, while third-generation family member James is sales director. Leslie went from making garden sheds to asbestos and concrete garages, and was so successful the company became one of the biggest garden shed and garage manufacturers in the country. When integral garages became the fashion, the company moved on to manufacture portable buildings and had to move premises several times to cope with expansions. Leslie and his wife Margaret's 4 children, Debbie, Stephen, Martin and Matthew, all worked in the business at some stage. Matthew first joined the company in 1981, before working elsewhere to gain more experience. He returned in 2006 when his dad became ill. The company offers maintenance services for the public and private sectors, along with home refurbishments and extensions for the private individual. 60 years really is a milestone, and I know my dad would be thrilled to know the name C&R still lives on. Like all companies, we've been through tough times, but we've managed to ride the wave and come out the other end. We have recently won several big new contracts, including one to refurbish student accommodation in Sheffield. The fact that we are in such a strong trading position is due to the team and the family who have supported the business.
As you know, most weeks we get a selection in the Courier from 100 years ago, the First World War, and what was happening in Halifax and how the war was affecting local news. This week marked the first anniversary of the declaration of war, so there was 1 full year into the war, and you're going to hear 3 pieces taken from the Courier of this week, 1915. They're interesting variety of pieces. I always like looking at the reproduction of the old Couriers for the adverts and the little snippets around the side. There's a lovely advert here for Lux soap with the slogan, "It won't shrink khaki." And some of our older listeners might well remember Whittaker's Shire Ales and Standard Stout, with a sailor holding up a pint of ale with the Cheerio slogan next to it. So the articles, one of them is about the celebrations locally for the anniversary. Large crowds gathered in both Halifax and Soverbridge, as well as other parts of Calderdale, and church services were held and supportive speeches were made, although not everybody was in favour of the continuing war. Casualties at this time were believed to be heavy, but it was just a foretaste of things to come. And it'll be interesting, I think, as the weeks go by, to see if the enthusiasm and the celebratory nature of these events continues as the population becomes more aware of the grim realities of total war. Anyway, 3 pieces for you now. I'll hand over to Margaret for the first.
The first one is entitled Recruiting Jamboree. The week of July the 31st to August the 5th was an opportunity for the Civilian Recruiting Committee to mount a jamboree of events to secure further enlistments. It was nothing if not spectacular. It began on the Saturday with a huge procession from George Square, involving 26 vehicles with all manner of occupants, including soldiers of the 2nd Reserve 4th Battalion, West Riding Regiment, the Volunteer Training Corps, Wounded Heroes, Soldiers' Children, the Boys Brigade, Boy Scouts, and numerous local district bands. It was topped off by a spectacular military tattoo at Thrum Hall, which featured 400 torches forming fantastic figures, swinging martial music, massed regimental bands, a grand display of aerial fireworks and a gymnastic display. Despite the splendour of it all, recruitment officers were far from optimistic. Captain Morehouse of the recruiting depot said he was afraid there were too many people who were thinking more of cricket and of going on holiday than of the safety of our country. His pessimism was not misplaced. The proceedings raised a paltry 29 new recruits. The whole week could be seen to symbolise the end of the voluntary ideal. From here on, conscription was firmly on the agenda. What would the National Register tell them about the numbers of eligible men who, for various reasons, had decided to not volunteer?
This is an interesting article about Sunnyvale at Hipperholm and the Halifax Zoo in Exley. The report goes on to say, the war notwithstanding, the holiday season was upon us, with the local Wakes holidays starting on Monday, as can be seen from these advertisements for two of the biggest attractions of the district. Sunnyvale, or as it was more popular known, Sunny Bunces, had opened in 1880 as a pleasure garden and had developed into what we would now call an amusement park, with a maze, music shows, swings, helter-skelter, skating, boating and dancing. In its heyday it attracted thousands of day trippers who arrived at Hipperholm railway station and then walked to the attraction. The business was sold by the Bunce family in 1945 and eventually closed in 1949. The only evidence which remains of this once thriving enterprise is one of the lakes, which itself is gradually silting up. The zoo, which was a much more recent addition to Calderdale, had opened in 1909 on the site of Chevin Edge Mansion at Exley and exhibited more than 1,000 animals, together with other attractions such as the Electric Theatre, the Fun Factory and the Hall of Mirrors. Unfortunately, falling visitor numbers due to the war and the difficulty in obtaining food for the animals caused the closure of the zoo in 1916, with the amusements closing the following year.
Another aspect of the war here, 4 brothers in the army. The Hamer family of Copley were proudly showing that 4 of their sons were serving king and country. 2 of them had already been taken prisoner and would remain in the German prisoner of war camp for the remainder of the war. Nelson Hamer was wounded in the course of the war, but returned home safely. But his brother, Jack, did not fare so well. He was seriously wounded in 1917, but recovered and returned to the front, where he was reported missing in March 1918. His fate was never discovered, and he was presumed dead. His name is commemorated on the Pozières Memorial to the Missing in France. In all, 6 sons of this family served in the armed forces during the Great War, with the brothers Joe and Lewis joining up later on. Mrs. Hamer hailed from the Plymouth area with its strong naval connections and believed that she had around 40 relatives who served their country during the conflict. And
again, looking at the front page from the Courier all those years ago, the other thing that struck me, some of you may know that nowadays I live in Saddleworth in Upper Mill, and one of the big events of the year over there is the brass band marching competitions on Whit Friday. And it's interesting here how prominently brass bands feature. The Halifax Zoo on Wakes Monday had the Black Dyke Band, still going strong, but there they were in 1915. And on Wakes Tuesday, King Cross Brass Band were playing. And Sunnyvale at Hipperholm had a splendid military band performing. So clearly the entertainment industry in those days was, locally anyway, was very much built around brass bands. Coming up to date in terms of entertainment, there's a couple of dates for you to perhaps make in your diary. One is the musical Billy Elliot. Tickets go on sale on Tuesday, August the 13th for Billy Elliot the Musical, which will tap dance its way into the Alhambra Theatre, Bradford, from May the 10th to June the 11th next year. It will be the only Yorkshire date on the current tour of the multi-award-winning smash hit show. And if you are interested in getting tickets, you need to ring 01274 432 000. That's 01274 432 000. Also on the entertainment world, something coming to the Victoria Theatre, Halifax, on September the 17th is "You Gotta Love Living, Baby, 'cause Dying's a Pain in the Ass." The words of the voice of the 20th century, a man who eventually became bigger than Jolson and bigger than Judy Garland. The recipient of 11 Grammy Awards and one of the biggest selling artists of all time, with sales of well over 150 million records worldwide. A man who knew how to live life to the full, and along the way entertained hundreds of millions of people. He was known by many names in his illustrious career: Bones, No Hips, Skinny, Chairman of the Board, and Old Blue Eyes. But one name remains synonymous in entertainment history: Sinatra. This year is the 100th anniversary of the birth of Francis Albert Frank Sinatra. And to mark this special occasion, David Elassi, one of the world's leading Sinatra interpreters, and the man of whom Rat Pack legend Buddy Greco said, "This guy really is Sinatra," will be touring the UK, including the Victoria Theatre, Halifax, on September the 17th. He will be accompanied by British show business legend Kenny Lynch and Becky O'Brien from ITV's Britain's Got Talent. And you'll hear all his greatest songs from My Way to New York, New York. In the words of Sinatra, "May you live to be 100, and may the last voice you hear be mine." If you're interested in that, tickets are on sale from the Victoria Theatre. They cost £23.50 to £24.60, and the box office telephone number is 01422 351158. And now moving slightly down market from that, we have a selection of stories from the local life column, the various little organisations and institutions around Calderdale and what they've been doing or what they are planning for the near future.
The Churches Conservation Trust, which looks after St Stephen's Church in Copley Village, will be holding a special event on Saturday, August the 15th. This is part of the commemorations of both World Wars, plus VE Day and VJ Day. There will be exhibitions on display, plus stories of some of the soldiers who are named on the memorial and the Roll of Honour at the church. In addition, there will be models and displays which are being loaned from Bully Court Military Museum. The event will be open from 10 o'clock in the morning to 1:30 p.m. and admission is free, but a donation to the trust would be appreciated. Another piece, Elland and District Partnership has booked the Rec Cinema on Sunday, August the 30th, for a special showing of the famous film The Sound of Music, which celebrates its 50th anniversary. Any funds raised will be used to continue the work of regenerating the town centre. Tickets cost £7 and are available from the Rex, Peel Walker and Lippylicious.
This next one is from the community news from Barbara G. of North Arran. Mary Lister welcomed 17 members to the last Tuesday afternoon meeting of the Tuesday Club before their summer break. The meeting was held at North Arran Methodist Church. Mary introduced and welcomed Paul Kenny, who gave a presentation on TV and film locations. Paul illustrated his talk with slides as he showed where Brief Encounter had been filmed at Carnforth railway station. He continued with scenes from Bradford and the film Room at the Top, and The Railway Children was filmed at Oakworth railway station. He took the members to Esholt, where Emmerdale was originally filmed, and then on to Heartbeat and the Whitby Moors. Take the High Road was filmed in Scotland. The next meeting of the Tuesday Club will be on Tuesday, September the 1st. And there's another one here about something to come rather than something that's been held, and that's a dog show from Greetland. The Canine Care Dog and Kitty Rescue are having their 6th annual dog show and fun day from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday, August the 16th at the Heath RUFC, Stainland Road, Greetland. We will be having a fun dog show with prizes for agility, 29 stalls, raffles, tombola, face painting, Kirklees College Animal Department, and we asked the vet, that's another selection, woodcutter, a medium giving private readings, and also we have for the first time a falconry display.
I have here a report of the Probus Club, who were given a talk by Sheila Lum on China. And she mentions some places. I can manage Shanghai, but I really don't know how to pronounce Qingdao, so forgive me if I get it wrong. Sheila Lum made a return visit to Halifax Probus Club, where she spoke about contrasts in China. She spent several years there teaching English, and in moving from one school to another, and with various travelling holidays, she covered many different parts of the country, and so was able to present the different aspects of this huge country from west to east and from north to south. Over such a vast area, the weather varies from wet to dry and from hot to cold. Some of the places she described with the use of her own photographs were Shanghai, Calderdale, and the primitive farms of the hinterland. The way of life varies from place to place and from city to countryside, and no land is wasted, but every small patch used for agriculture. The two main languages are Mandarin and Cantonese. The speaker was thanked for her fascinating talk by Roy Sykes, and the chairman was Harold Metcalfe. Coffee was served by Enid Ackroyd and Marion Reynolds. The next meeting will be held on August 20th, 10 a.m. at Halifax Bowling Club, when John Hemingway will be the speaker. The title is to be announced later.
Now, I've only just come back up to the north of England, having spent over 2 weeks in Gloucester looking after my mother, who is now quite elderly and needs a little bit of care and attention sometimes. So when I got back, I opened the curtains yesterday morning to look out at my garden. And I'm not going to do a Dorothy and give you lots and lots of description of my garden, but I was astonished to see that in 2.5 weeks it had absolutely gone bananas, and there were blossoms everywhere, and it was a riot of colour. And that's very unusual for my garden, I hasten to add. It's usually a bit sort of depleted and forlorn at times, particularly at this time of the year. Anyway, it inspired me to look up 1 or 2 quotations about gardens and gardening, just to finish us off. So you're just going to have a selection of 4 interesting little views on gardens, nature, gardening, etc. I was particularly interested to read a quotation from Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "I was flattered to have a rose named after me, until I read the description in the catalogue. No good in a bed, but perfect up against a wall."
Dennis Miller, quotations here, "A developer is someone who wants to build a house in the woods. An environmentalist is someone who already owns a house in the woods."
This is a cheeky little quote from Bob Flowerdew. He quotes, "The best time to take cuttings is when no one is looking."
Mine is by W.C. Fields. I sort of can't help but slip slightly into the intonation. "My ambition as a gardener is to water my orange trees with gin. Then all I have to do is squeeze the juice into the glass."
And that is just about it from us this week. It simply remains for me to thank the Halifax Courier for the newspapers, the use of their newspapers, the Society for the Blind for the use of their premises for our recordings. Particularly big thanks to our readers tonight, Margaret, Janet and Rosalind, all of whom have come in some cases at extreme short notice to read for us tonight. And of course to thank our technician Jeff. I will be back with you in 5 weeks' time with my regular team, and Roger will be reading for you in 6 weeks' time with his team. In the meantime, it's been a lovely warm day today. I believe we're going to get some rain in the next couple of days. Hopefully that combination will keep the gardens growing. Hopefully you have been able to enjoy the weather so far, and when I see you again in mid-September, hopefully we will be soaking up the sun in an Indian summer. But for the time being, from all of us here, good night.